Welcome to the Werewolf Den, where we do a deep dive into the core concepts and principles behind White Wolf's Werewolf the Apocalypse.
I'm Amylin.
And I am Ryan.
Welcome back. So, we're doing our mini episode this time. This is a nice little episode that we decided to do because we do pretty regularly get questions from you guys, but they're from all sorts of different places. Some of you send me questions on Twitter. Some of you will send me questions in the comments. Some of you will drop questions in my email. Some of you drop questions on Podbean. They're all over the place. And this feels like a good way to just place all of our answers in one spot. And it's also a good spot we can direct people to if we get repeats and just be like, hey, we answered this. All right. So the first couple of questions we'll cover are kind of basic housekeeping ones. One that I get pretty regularly now on Twitter is people have gone onto Twitter or they listen to our Spirit episode and realized, oh, Amylin's non-binary. And I've been using the wrong pronouns when referring to them, and I feel bad. So a bunch of people have reached out and asked, Ryan, what are your pronouns so that they're not doing the same thing to you?
He, him, his. Thanks.
There we go.
Second question. Do you have a Patreon? And this came up a long time ago, and we started doing the Pentex Break Room kind of to promote, air quotes there, a Ko-fi. For those who really feel the need to, it's there. We're not doing this to make money or promote a business angle. It's something we've done for fun and to keep ourselves from going mad during the quarantine. And because we love Werewolf, we love talking about it.
Absolutely.
So there's really no reason to feel you need to do it. And that's kind of why we've couched it as, Pentex, where I feel dirty just promoting it. But it's there if you want to show your gratitude, and we're eternally grateful for anyone who does. But please, 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 please don't feel that you need to. We'll do this for as long as we care to. And if we get money, we'll put it into getting a better microphone and actual, software to do stuff.
We'll give the reward for if you buy us a coffee, we will name drop you in an episode or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll figure something out.
Don't feel that you need to. We're not sustained by this. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be sustained by this. It's a passion project, pure and simple. But it's there if you're a frickin' saint and want to be saint-like.
Yeah. If you do want to, just hang out and chat with us more, I do have a Twitter account that I officially converted into the Werewolf Den official Twitter account. So you can follow us on there. Well, follow me on there. Ryan does not do Twitter.
Nope.
But there you go.
Oh, that Ko-fi account is ko-fi.com/werewolfden.
It's in the description.
It's also there too, yep.
Yes. Moving on. This is one of our more common questions, and we're going to paraphrase it because some people don't phrase it respectfully. So we're going to take the best possible way, good faith way, of taking this question, which is, do you think that my insert male Garou born Black Fury concept would be acceptable? And the answer is 9 times out of 10, no.
I mean, I'd say 10 times out of 10. If you're male presenting, just no. It's a great opportunity, especially for Garou born, where you're born in Krynos form. You don't have genitalia. You don't have anything to indicate a gender. You are a killing war machine. That's your gender. And so using that as sort of a launch pad to be like, what is gender? I'm going to explore it. Awesome. But if you're just going to be male,
particularly cis male in the Black Furies, just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Trans men, I definitely understand the notion of coming in there and using it to explore your gender. I do not cut off trans men when I run because a lot of closeted trans people will use trans men as a means to express their gender within the game, and I can absolutely respect that. Mm-hmm. But that's for your private game. Do not play a trans man Black Fury if you are a streamer. Just, that's disrespectful, and chances are you're probably doing it wrong. I'm sorry, you probably are. But
those very ideas that you're trying to emphasize with that character work 100% as well as a child of Gaia.
Absolutely.
There's nothing.
And we're not necessarily saying no to this just strictly because we've come across so many just plain misogynists that try to use this concept to just make fun of the Black Furies. We have, and we talked about that in our Black Fury episode. But this is also a thing about creating an inviting space for your gender minority players.
Yep.
When you come in with your whole, hoop-a-dup, I'm gonna play a male Garou-born Black Fury and experience reverse sexism, blah, you are, unintentionally or not, creating a hostile play space for your fellow players.
Yep.
Do not do that. Moving on. A much more positive question that we get, but still very, very common, is tips for combining auspice with tribe. 9 times out of 10, people are asking Philadelps with tribe.
Yeah.
So we'll cover that first.
So Philadelps are difficult to sort of consider, I think, compared to a lot of the other auspices, where it seems pretty easy to think of multiple ways to play that auspice. With Philadelps, I think the best way to think of it is kind of a jack of all trades. They emphasize balance. Okay, because, they're a half moon. Makes sort of sense, but what does that mean exactly? And they have their canonical manifestations of being judges, and, they're masters of punishment rites, and they're adjudicators on things, but I don't know, that just feels kind of hollow. In a larger sense, I can see a Galliard doing the same thing by citing precedent from great legends or things of that sort. Philadelps feels like it needs a bit more thought put into it from the player perspective as to what does this mean and how do I manifest it, aside from just being a judge.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of your Garou society role, but what does that mean for you as a person?
One of the things that I like to always default to whenever dealing with anything relating to any of the auspices is kind of going back to literary critique and understanding of this concept of the 5-man band. If you're unfamiliar with it, Overly Sarcastic Productions has a nice little summary on the whole thing in general. But when you really think about it, the whole concept of a quote-unquote balanced party comes from this notion of the 5-man band. And the D&D-ness aspect of, that means that somebody is a fighter and somebody is a healer and something like that doesn't necessarily translate well when dealing with auspices. But if you look at it from that literary perspective of somebody is the leader. Somebody is that leader's lancer. Somebody is the heart of the party. Somebody is the brains of the party. And somebody is just the plain big guy. This actually becomes a lot easier to fill out your character with. And when I build characters, I very frequently build them as a storyteller, so I kind of very much don't start with tribe or auspice. I start with, here's a person, I will start filling out the characteristics of that person, and by the time I'm done writing up that person is telling me what their auspice and tribes are. And I very frequently come up with Philadelps using that method, because when you just boil them down to the characteristics of, I have this person who's very analytical, who is very calm and rational, who is very patient. These are very Philadelpsy stereotypical aspects to it. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a lot easier then to think of that. When you're trying to intersect any auspice with any tribe, think of it from that angle. Think of those characteristics that usually you associate with those auspices. Figure out what your party role is in that narrative sense, perhaps. Like, if you're trying to be, the heart of the party, I realize that some of these will just organically form, but this is kind of what session zeros are for. Mm-hmm. But then just finding where they lace over with your tribe stereotypes, and you'll come up with very unique and interesting players by considering them as people first and auspice and tribes second.
Yeah. And auspice is something that you can lean into as strongly or as weakly as you want. If you want to really embody those Philadelps ideals as Garou society establishes them, do it. If you want to have nothing impacting that at all, like with my older brother character, was born a Philadelps, but wish I were a Theurge, go for that as well. There's nothing saying you have to have these qualities because that's what's written on your character sheet for an auspice. Mm-hmm. Like Amylin says, build your character first, and if there's one that really sings to you, go for it. If you want to have a particular role in society, take that. Play with it as much or as little as you want to. It is a tool in your toolbox, doesn't mean you have to use it.
And we will go ahead then and use this to... Sorry, people who asked us more about Philadelpses, you get the general answer. We did get one person, though, that asked us for a recommendation on how to do Ragabash in Child of Gaia. and we will go ahead and more directly answer that. You hear of H. Bomber Guy? Be him. Like,
it's one way to do it.
Like, when I think of things that are stereotypically Ragabash but don't contradict being Child of Gaia, the word that comes up to me is impish. Somebody who is playful and tricksy but doesn't necessarily cause harm. Somebody like Puck or something like that. Puck, I mean from like Midsummer's Night's Dream, not like Puck as in like some pretty horrifying stories that come out about him in actual mythology. But yeah, think of just kind of your internet shitlord people who are still kind of just pushing progressive and otherwise wholesome values. Like, think of somebody who's impish. That's the characteristic that I want to latch on to whenever I think Ragabash Child of Gaia.
Mm-hmm. You've got these ideals. You are going to express them by trying to demonstrate that antagonists to those ideas are wrong, or dumb, or assholes, and you're trying to, show people other ways, to teach them, to inspire them, things of that sort.
And 9 times out of 10, you'll be funny doing it. That sums it up right there.
Though that's not necessary.
Not necessary.
Ragabash don't need to be humorous.
It's a good way to kind of consider it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next big question. What's your opinion / will you be reviewing Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest?
So we've played through all but the last chapter of it so far. And I definitely have opinions on it. Amylin's more of a mind to critique it from an artistic or a storyteller perspective.
Here's my big thing with it. There's so many reviews out there, and if you want my opinion of it, I'm somebody who enjoys visual novels, and it's definitely a better visual novel of the crop. There's some things that I have critiques on, but most of my critiques stem from just accessibility issues, which pretty much every game has. Like, could you please make it so that people that have a hard time seeing could resize the text or is available to screen readers? Little things like that. Accessibility stuff. But otherwise, it's good. Solid visual novel. But if you want us to, like, full bore review it, I'm not interested in reviewing it other than to be like, hey, here's how we're going to take it, and take those good ideas and apply the good ideas to your game. I don't care about bagging on it or anything like that.
So, yeah, well, I think we'll make that a full episode where Amylin sort of leads the charge in thinking about it from that regard. My thoughts, I'll keep it brief, but, when I think of a White Wolf game, my thoughts, immediately turn to Bloodlines, where this is something that if you've never played Vampire, you can play it, and it shows you the world, and it expresses that style and that aesthetic and those ideals, and it does it masterfully. And if you're a veteran player, you can jump into this, and you're like, yeah, I'm home. But if you're a new player, that's going to spark your interest in the game, right? And with Werewolf, oh, I want that so bad. I want it. And we're probably never going to get it.
Maybe.
Earthblood looks like an action punchy game. Like, I don't know. I'm worried about it. Heart of the Forest, I feel, is trying to be one of those, all right, we've got the 5th edition games coming, or they're out, and we're trying to drum up interest, and we're trying to get people who've never heard of or played these games to probably give them a shot, right? And I think that there's some good stuff with it. Obviously, there are limitations with a visual novel where, you have to come up with a character who has sort of 5 or 6 different options of what they can do in that situation. And from a new player coming in, I think that's going to color their impression of the world. And so probably one of my big concerns is it's limiting in that regard. I feel like Bloodlines did a phenomenal job. You can play all the different clans. You can express yourself in all these different ways. You can really interact with that world. And here, if you're a first-time player who's never experienced Werewolf, it's setting limitations. And, Werewolf has so few limitations. It also establishes the Get of Fenris as a purely antagonistic entity, and based on the setting of the game, which, if I recall, was in Poland,
yes,
that makes absolute sense, right? Poland had some problems with the Nazis, and so it makes sense within the narrative to establish that. But again, for new players coming in who are going to immediately get hit with Get of Fenris or Nazis, there's more to that tribe, and boy, howdy, do I just want to go to the Legendary realm, like we talked about in the last episode, and see what's good about the Get of Fenris. Like, there's a reason for them to exist. Those are my big qualms. If you're a veteran of Werewolf the Apocalypse, it's a cool game. Once you get into it, it's good. But if you're trying to attract new players to the game, oh boy. Oh boy, oh howdy.
He takes banging on the Good of Fenris pretty hard.
I do. They're like we said, they're a tribe with value. Captain America's a Good of Fenris, guys. Punching Nazis. That's what Good of Fenris do.
They can punch the Nazis just as well.
And rant.
Yes.
Moving on.
All right. Next question. What is your interpretation of the Triad, both pre and post Weaver insanity?
So this is something that we kind of talked about in a sense with the Near Realms, where there's a lot that's not known about. And especially when you're dealing with something of such cosmic significance. No one was around to witness this event. No one was around to write these stories down, and you're an oral society that really doesn't do that too much anyway. So come up with what you want. You can be a Garou and be like, this is what I think happened, and absolutely no one can say you're wrong, because nobody knows!
Mm-hmm.
Play with it how you will.
I have lots of different ideas and interpretations for how that works. I hesitate. Maybe someday we'll do an episode where we can just spew entire ideas of different ways that those can be interpreted. But the best way I can always say is take your tribal philosophies, because tribes are kind of the best way to do this, and spin them throughout those things. I find that it is much more interesting to deal with these aspects on the level of, I have these 8 different NPCs and they all believe 8 different things regarding this. Mm-hmm. And then having your players gravitate to and away from. If you just give them one thing, it kind of has what I like to call the killing joke effect.
Yeah.
Where the whole point of the killing joke was to establish that Joker does not have a concrete backstory, and that's kind of what makes him scary. You have these multiple choice things and you can come up with all of these different things. And none of it is true.
Mm-hmm.
And I like applying that notion to your tabletop game or to your LARP. Everybody can have slightly differing views on it. If you have a whole bunch of players that are coming in with one singular view, start introducing different ideas to them, and you can have them be antagonists or reformers, whatever way you want to do. But the killing joke effect states that because Alan Moore started with, here's a backstory. Oh, no, wait, that was a lie. A lot of people say, oh, it's cool that it was a lie, but then just gloss over it for the rest of the storytelling. So many stories treat the killing joke background of the Joker as canon.
And
it's like,
DC does as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Joker fell into a vat of playing card chemicals. That's why he is the way he is. Can't stray from that. That's established.
Yep.
And the fans will get upset if that's not the case. Like, it's so bad. But yeah, as a storyteller, emphasizing, giving those options for players to look at the world and be like, oh, maybe, yeah. Have a mushroom spirit that is purely of the worm. It's, decomposing materials that are being digested by this fungus. And it's a very worm-like thing. But it's pure. It's doing its natural job. And so having aspects of the worm that are uncorrupted or untainted or pure, that players can be like, yeah, there's still a place for this. Mm-hmm. That's important. Like we talked about with the cyber realm, showing that technology can have positive aspects and Star Trek ideas and things of that sort. Emphasize that the Weaver has its positive elements as well.
Give the wild its negative aspects to it as well.
Yeah.
Flux is horrifying.
Yeah. Pure chaos. Kind of terrible.
Mm-hmm. So if you want interpretations of it, view the base story through tribal lens and be like, maybe this character considers it all a lie. Because that's what your players are going to interact with. They're not going to interact, I hope, with the actual worm, weaver, and wild. Because these are things bigger than Gaia herself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Throwing your players against something that big just kind of strikes as mean to me. But they're going to deal with NPCs, and all these NPCs are going to view these things differently. Some NPCs will view the entire story as, like, a lie. Or maybe it is all true, but just, like, these little details are a little different. Tribes are a very good way to create that depth of kind of religious dogma, in a sense, within your game. And play with that. I definitely know there are plenty of players that go in and are just like straightforward, the Weaver is the true enemy, and we should really, really talk about that. And it's like, no, yes.
All of them have their positive and negative elements to them.
Yes. I love introducing NPCs that contradict the players on these hardcore beliefs. And I like playing with, oh, these are absolute truths of lore, or maybe they're not. That's fun.
Yeah. But there is one question that we think deserves its own full episode. We received a question about Rite of the Totem. Both Amylin and I have run this in varying degrees.
I love this, right? I love it.
And so I think we have a lot to talk about, and that itself can make up a full episode. So next time, we'll be discussing Rite of the Totem and how to use it best within your game setting.
See you then. Welcome to the Pentex Break Room, where we are a vast, giant company, not a mere 60-ish subscriber YouTube channel that is somehow already doing a Q&A. We will continue to monitor this very tiny, unworthy YouTube channel. Have a good day!